So today is 24th November, and we'll continue our project Crud Operation using parseServer. So this is will continue. Let's check the what we have done. So this is I built the project on that day. We started with the add one, and when I put the location, for example, South San Francisco, and I put some content, and I submit it. I can see the content here, and the location is South San Francisco. And here I can. The next task is, before I do the location, let's go with the pagination. And I did some part of pagination on that day, and today we'll continue with that. So let me open this. So what we did about pagination, we started with the maximum per page, and then generally the page will start with a 0, but if I pass something in the URL, I can take that page also. So user can also put the pagination in the URL to go to next page, and then I put the starting number. So page is 0, 1, 2, but in each page, based on the maximum number of record, we change the start number. So the page into the max will be the start number. At the first page it will be 0. Since it is 3, so second page will be starting with the 3, and then next page will start with the 6, something like that. Page is 2 into max 3, that is 6, and then another page will start with 3 into 3, 9. So something start will go like this. Because start, we have to pass the record from where we have to start the displaying the result. It is not based on the page. It is so when I say start here, when I say start, this start is something that means when I start the record. So on the first page it will be 0. On the second page it's not that 1, it is 3 if we have maximum of 3. Then I create two variables, page num and start row, because these are some constant which I defined, but which is used to give the initial value only. So once initial value is there, we put it here, but later on we have to go from one page to another, so we cannot take the initial value. We have to depend on the dynamic value, and these will change based on the person has clicked the next button. This URL will be used to travel from one page to another page. So I created one URL which I will explain you what it does. Later I will explain you. Then I will also put the total rows and total pages. So if you feel that this RS view is something taking too much space, let's delete RS view part, and I'll only keep the page num, start row, set page num, and set page row, start row, and I'll say total rows, and here I'll say total pages, total rows. Okay, so this makes it a little cleaner. We have small short letter, and since I changed start row, I will change the start row here also, and here also. So these 3 lines of the code are the hard coded when the page or component will load. to set the initial value, but later on when the user will go from one page to another page, we need these two variables to be manipulated so that I can go from one page to another page. And based on the count, I show the total rows, and based on the total rows, I have the total pages. And total pages also start with the 0, 1, 2, 3. So if the page is only 1, so total page will be 0, 1, 2, like that. Total rows will number of rows that is there on the in the record. So this is a pagination parameter. Now we have to build the pagination, which I will build in a bit. So if you have any doubt in this parameter, just let me ask me in chat. Otherwise, I will move to pagination. Okay. So let's go to pagination now. If you don't have any question. So right now I will put the pagination here in this component only, but then I will move it to another component. Or better is I can move it now only in another component. So I'll create another function called as pagination. And I will return some div right now, pagination. And let's call this pagination component here after the table. So after the table ends, I have to call the pagination. Since I have to call this pagination here inside this one, so I have to wrap this table with the fragment. And to wrap the fragment, we use the empty angular bracket. And I will end with empty angular bracket. Let's put the pagination here. So if you see, my pagination is appearing here. So the pagination will come here. So what things pagination will need it? So first thing need in pagination, let's pass the parameter there. First thing I need the page num. Which page I am here. So I will pass the page num here. So I pass the first page num. Since I am passing the page num, let's gather the page num in the pagination. So here I can use the curly bracket to gather the props. So I'm getting the page num as the first parameter. Second parameter which I want is start row. Let's pass the start row equal to we pass the start row. Let's gather this start row here in the pagination parameter. Next thing which I want to pass is set page num. So I pass the set page num. Let's gather the set page num here. Then let's pass the set start row. I'll pass the set start row. And let's gather the set start row here. Next, I want to pass the maximum value of the rows, because based on the maximum I can change the start row. So let's pass the max. Let's take the max here. We're getting the max also here. Let's pass the total rows. And let's gather the total rows in the pagination. Then next is total pages. So I pass the total pages also. Let's gather the total pages in the pagination component. Next is this URL. I want to take this URL also, because the next URL will be constructed based on this URL. And let's gather the URL also here. One more thing I want to be gather, I have to take the history. So let's create the history also. History will be nothing but props.history. History is used to go from one page to another, and based on the URL and history and the page number, will move from one page to another. So let's pass the history also in another page. So all these parameters are needed to make the pagination work properly. So if you miss any of this, you will get some error and you will not work. It will not work properly. So I'll pass the history also. So these are the things we needed. I put this pagination in another function, and then I'll export it in another file so that I can use it in different projects. Right now I'm putting it here, but once it is done, I will move it to another page. So let's start building the pagination. So first thing is, this is a div. So I'll create another div inside here, and here I will say records. I want to show records, for example, 1 to 6 of 10 records, for example, or 1 to 3. So it will show on the first page, it will show record 1 to record 3 of 10 record. Why it will show 3? Because we have maximum number of 3 in one page. So it shows 1 to 3 of 10 records. So this 10 is the total number of the record, which I will get from the total rows, and 1 will be coming from the start row, and 2 we will define this 2 in a bit, how we get this value. Let's take this one first. So right now I'm getting 1 to 3 of 10, but this is hard coded. We have to make it dynamic. So let's make it dynamic. So first we'll convert this one part to dynamic. One part is nothing but start row plus 1, because start row always start with 0. So plus 1 I have to say, so that user can see 1 to 3. User should not see 0 to 2, because user only concerned with 1 to 3. 0 to 2 is our internal. So right now it's showing 1 because it is showing dynamic, but since 1 was same previously, so I'm able to see 1. So right now it's showing dynamic. So let's change this 10 to this total rows. So now you will see some difference. So it's saying 1 to 3 of 7. Now we have to change this 3 part, which should be the dynamic. So in the first page, it should be 3. In the second page, it should be 6. So like this, we have to increase the number of this. So if I say, so in the first page, it should be 3. So if I say start row plus maximum rows, then you will see it's coming 3 correctly. But if I go to page 2, for example, if I'm changing this to 1, that means page 2, you will see it is going to 4 to 6 correctly of 7. And then let's say if I go to third page number, then it is showing record 7 to 9. So total there are 7 records, but this is inconsistent. This 9 number is wrong. So previously in 2 pages this 2 number was right, but in the last page this 2 number is wrong. So we have to fix this one. It should not go above 7. So if it is 7, it should show 7 here. So 7 to 7 of 7. It should show like this. It should show like record 7 to 7 of 7. Because there are total 7 records, it should not go above 7. So we have to fix this 9 number. So to fix this, I have to use JavaScript number math.javascript function minimum, and minimum should be either this and another number will be total rows. It should not go above total rows. So start plus max is greater than total rows, then show the total rows. And if start plus max is less than total rows, then show start plus max. That way we will fix the, okay, I did not put the round bracket in the end. So now you will see 7 to 7 because 7 is less than 9. So we do minimum of 7 and 9, that is 7. So we are showing now correctly this part. So let's go to page 1 again by changing this to 0. So I'm on page 1. So it's showing record 1 to 3 of 7. So this is showing correctly. Now let's go to build next and previous page. I will not build 1, 2, 3, 4. I will only build the next and previous one so that you then can go to another page by clicking the next link. So let's create a table for this, and I'll just put, I can give the CSS also, but for now I'll just give hard-coded like in olden days we put table border equal to 0, but we can change it later to class name, some class name, but for now this is only functionality I needed. So I will just put few parameters. So this is my table. I'll start the T body, and inside T body I'll start with the TR. It will be only one row, and we have TD, that is the okay, that is TD. I'll give 4 TD. There will be 4 TD. First will be showing the first one, and then there will be next one, then there will be previous one, or first, previous, next, and the last. So we have 4 links on the page. So we have first, previous, next, and last. So this will be the 4 links on the pagination, and that's what I will build it now. So each will be the, let's build first previous and the next, and then we'll build the first and the last. So let's build the previous one first. So let me wrap this previous in a span so that I can apply on click on this. So it will be on click equal to, so it will be some function, and I'll put the style to this. Style will be cursor equal to pointer. And let's take the previous one. You will see there is a previous one is when I would take the mouse, it is having the pointer cursor. So inside this span, I will write some code. Okay, so what code will go here? So let's build the next one first, because that one we are already on the first page. So on the previous one we will not able to see the effect. So let's build the next one first. So next one will be, it should go to, if there is a page is 0, I have to go to next means page plus 1, something like that. So maybe I create a 2 variable. So I can say constant next page equal to what we are getting in the page. We are getting in the page as the page num. Page num plus 1. And what I am saying, next page will be page num plus 1. And since I change the next page, let's change the start also. So we'll change the start as constant next start equal to. So start will be based on the next page only. So it will be next page into, I want the max, this max. But since, okay, let's put it max and see what is coming. Okay, let's take the, let's take the values of these both. So as soon as okay, we are getting something, it should be cell padding like this. Let's do this one, cell padding like this. Okay, so now when I click the next button, you will see the next page is 1 and the next start is 3. Because current is 0 and start is 0. When I go to second page, next page becomes 1 and next start will become 3. This is I want. So once we get the new value, I can say set page num equal to next start next page, and I'll also say set start row equal to next start. Okay, so I just made this change. Now see what will happen when I click the next button. I'll click the next. You will see we are moved to the next 4 to 6 record. And when I click again the next page, it is going to record 7. But if I click next again, it's going to the next one and I'm not able to see anything. So I should not go beyond the last page. It should be till the last page only. So this going to the, after the last page, I'm still able to go to next page and then I'm not able to see it. So I should make sure that this next page, when we are on the last page, we should not go to the more than the last page. So to check this, here in the next page, I will check if it is greater than total page, then it should remain in the last page only. So to do that, we have the total pages also. So we should know that if something is greater than total page, we should not go to that page. So here I will again use math.min. Either it should be page plus new page, or it should be the total page. So if this page plus 1 goes to more than total pages, then we will see which is smaller. So smaller is total pages. So the next page will be the total page. Now, no matter what, you click the next 100 times, it will remain on the last page only, because we keep the next page to be the last page only if we are on the last page. So if I go to second page, last, and I'm clicking next again and again, but it is remaining on the last page only. So this part we are done with this next one. The only thing is URL is not changed. URL is same. So if I refresh, I am again going to the first page. So if I want to keep the page last only after refresh also, I can do like this: history.push, and here I will construct the URL which will be there. So I will use backtick. Then I'll use the URL which I am passing. This is the URL, and slash, and I have to use the next page. This is the new page. So I'll say dollar next page. Okay, so this way I will change the URL also, and I have to make sure this is in my routing. So I have slash page and the page ID, so that I should have in the routing. If I don't have in the routing, though I change the URL, it will not go anywhere. It will go to not found page if I don't have that routing. So now if I go to next page, it is going to next page also, and it is also going to page in the URL. So if I refresh it now, it is on the second page only. We are not going to the first page. See, page is also changed, and we are also on the next page. Okay, let's build similarly the previous page. So this part is done. Let's build the previous page. I'll copy this content in the previous page. Then I'll change the parameters. So let's make this as a previous page. So previous page, since we went to the minimum of this, let's try to remove it and use the only page number -1. Since we are going to previous page, we will go to -1, and the previous start will be previous page into max. Then set page num will be the previous page, set start will be the previous start, history will be the previous page. Okay, so this is the change. Only thing we have to correct this part when we go to the first page. Otherwise, if we don't fix it, it will go to minus number that we don't want. So we have to fix that one also. So if I go to second, okay, let's refresh the page. Okay, so let's go to previous page. You see the URL is changed to 1. 1 means second page. When we see 1, that means it's second page. And we're on the second page. If I click previous again, we're at the 0 number. And we are at 1 to 3. Now again, if I click previous number, you will see we are going to -1. That I don't want. We should handle. See, -1 is coming, so we get the error. So you should not allow -1. Okay, so to do that, this one, we have to we have to see whether this is smaller than 0, then we have to take the 0. So to do that, I will use math.max. So either 0 is greater or this page num minus 1 is greater. So if I click previous and it goes to -1, then it will check whether -1 is greater or 0 is greater, and 0 is greater, so it will remain on the first page only. So with this line of the code, it will never go in the minus value. So let's do it again. So now if I go to previous one, you will see it remain in the first page only. If I go to next page, previous one. And do you see that when I click the next one, the content, the screen is scrolled to the top. The reason the screen is scrolled to the top is because I have used one thing in the beginning while creating the project, which I told you that is necessary. Okay, let me show you what I did. In the routing, I put this scroll to top. Because of this scroll to top, we are able to move to the up. If I remove something, the scroll to top, let's remove the scroll to top and then see what happens. So now if I go to previous one, so you will see I'm at the bottom only, and we are just going to the first page. So we are at the bottom only. So with this 3 record, it's fine, but if we have 100 record, so when I click next, I assume that I should be at the top of the page so that I can see all the lists again. So for that, we need to put the scroll to top. So let's revert the scroll to top again, and we'll check again. So now if I do previous, you will see I'm scrolling to the top. Now the two things are remaining. One is the first and the last. We are done with the previous and the next. Okay, so let's read the first and the last. So to make the first, we'll copy this span tag and we'll paste it at the first. So in the first page, we should always set the page num to the 0 and start row to be the 0. We don't need any hardcode, any value of this, and we'll just we can make this also 0. So it will be on the first page. Okay, so that will be the first page. Let's check the first page. If I am on the next. So when I click the first, it should go to the record 1 to 3. That is at the page number 0. Let's paste the last now. So for that, let's copy this again. Let's copy this next one and put it in the last, and I'll rename this next to last. So here, the next start will be, so it should be the last page. Last page means it should take the total pages. So we know the total pages is the last page which we get. So next start will be calculated based on the total pages, and the page number will be the total pages, and next start will be based on the total pages. We don't need the first line. And in the next page we will just say total pages, because last page is always the total number of pages. So we'll take use of that one to create the start and the pages. So let's check this one. We are on the first page. I click the last. It goes to the 2 number, that is the total pages. I can go first page, I can go last page. Okay, so we are done with all the 4 buttons. Now the only thing remaining, when I'm on the first page, I should not see the first and the previous one. I should see only the next and last. But that can be that's little. I don't want to complicate that thing now. For now we will just keep this as this one. Only I will make this bolder. The rest all is fine. But later on I will fix this so that we can only see the first and previous when we are not on the first and previous. And if we are on the last, we should not see next and last. Okay, so at least pagination is working fine. Okay, so this pagination is done. Tomorrow we'll do this search box. So we'll put some search parameter, and based on the search, we'll show the content here. So that is something we'll do tomorrow. Another thing is, we will also work on the next project. This all thing we are doing in the Bootstrap, and we will also do Material UI. So from the next project, we will be using Material UI. So right now I have created the widget, and this whole widget is based on the, most of them are based on the Bootstrap one. So maybe I'll create another folder called as widgets Material UI. So we will be duplicating stuff in the Material UI to make use of that also. So if someone prefer Bootstrap, they can use Bootstrap. If someone prefer Material UI, they can use Material UI. Whatever you want, you can use that. And in a project, we can combine both also. But it's better we will write only Material UI or Bootstrap, because otherwise, we have to take use of the classes mix and match, which is very not good way, because it may give errors in future, and we don't want to resolve that. So once we use Material UI, we'll use only Material UI in that project. So from next project or next project, we'll use the Material UI. Right now, it's fine. This is fine. And this pagination is something which is irrespective of material or that, because it has only the normal style, not Bootstrap style. So we can use it for both the things, Material UI or Bootstrap. Let me copy this pagination function to another folder, another file. So maybe I can create in the components, I'll create a new folder called as pagination, and in that pagination folder I'll create a new file, pagination.jsx, and I'll replace this function with my function of pagination. And on the home page, I will call that one, import pagination from components pagination and pagination. So this is how I am calling from another component, so that I can use this pagination in my all projects, and that's the reason I am building this here. And this part, pagination parameter, I'll just put and I'll comment it here so that I should know how to build this one. So I'll just comment it here, because after we are done with this project, we will not have this one, these values I created, if I want to use it in another project. So I just want to handy this thing so that in the next project I can just copy this content in the next project. And I'll also take this part so that I can use this in the next project. Let me do it again. Okay. Okay, so let it be here. So I just copied both the things here, and then we will use this component whenever we want to use pagination. I'll go through slowly so you can pause and copy paste this whole pagination. Okay, so this is about pagination, and we are done with the pagination in the home page. We will work on the location box, that is search box, tomorrow, so that we can take this user's location when user put something in the search box. So I can see from your location that record is how many miles away from that your location. And if something user will put keyword, I should be able to search based on the keyword also. So that's all about pagination and home page. Okay, so let's go to data structure today. We finished the stack on that day. We will see the queue today. Queue. So let's recap the stacks. So what we did in the stack, I'll not recap the program, I'll recap what we did. So in the stack, I created the array, and when I click enter the book, I enter the book book 1 here, and if I want to enter the book 2, I enter the book 2 here, and then I say book 3, I enter the book 3 here. So whatever books I was adding on the top of book 1, I was adding book 2. On the top of book 2, I was adding book 3. And when I want to remove, I cannot remove the book 1 from the initially because it is at the bottom. I have to first remove book 3, then I have to remove book 2, then I have to remove book 1. That was the stack. Let's work on the queue. In the queue, when you stand in the line in the queue, you have a person in the queue. So let's say person 1 is there. So whenever person 1 is there, he is the only person, and when I have to remove it, I will remove this person 1 only. But when second person will come in the queue, he will come before the person 1, and person 2 will come here. So when I have to remove, you have seen the queue in the train booking counter, that person 1 who is coming first will go first, and the person who comes second will go second. So like this, the priority is based on the person who has joined first. So person 1 comes first, so he is on the top one, he will go first. Then person 2 will come behind the person 1. Then person 3 will come behind person 2. So as more people will come in the queue, I will add before at the initial level only. Here in this array, it will be initial level, but while removing it, I will remove it from here because person 1 came first. So if person 4 came, he will be at the beginning. So this is a queue. We are creating the queue. This is person 1, then person 2, person 3, person 4, and then there will be person 5. So 5 people are in the queue, and the first person will go away. Okay, so this initial array is this. As soon as I want to add, I am adding it at the front of the array. So to add in the front of the array, whether I will use push or shift, which one I will use? So we will use shift. Okay, so initially when we were doing stack, we wanted to enter, we want to add at the end of the array. So we were using push, and to remove it we were using pop. That is about the stack. But in the queue, since I want to add at the beginning of the array, push will not work. If I use push, it will become a stack and not the queue. So to make it queue, we have to add using the shift, and we have to remove from here because person 1 has to be removed first. So whether I will use pop or unshift to remove in queue. So whether when removing I have to use pop or unshift. So pop means we have to remove it from the end. Unshift means we have to remove it. Sorry, it is so there is a change in this. There is not a shift. We have to use unshift here. And so because we need to, when we want to add something, it is unshift, not the shift. So I will use unshift. Sorry about this one. So unshift means adding it in the beginning of the array. And so we will use unshift here. And here, since we are adding it in the end of the array, we will use push. Okay. So there was only the mistake in the unshift kind of thing. That's fine. So when we want to add, we will use unshift. Unshift means we are adding at the beginning of the array. And when we want to use, we want to remove in the queue, whether I will use pop or shift. So we will use shift or pop. No one wants to answer it. So it's a pop. So while removing, we have to remove at the end. And to remove at the end, we will use pop. If we want to remove something from the beginning, we would have used shift. If we want to add at the end of the array, we will use push. If we want to add at the beginning of the array, we will use unshift. In the stack, since we have to add at the end, we will use push. And since we have to take from the end, we will use pop. But in the queue, since we have to add at the beginning of the array, we will use unshift. And since we have to remove the element from the end of the array, so to remove we will use pop. So this is the difference between the stack and queue. The queue is something first in, first out. So the person who comes first will be removed first. And in the stack, first in, the person who add first will go in the end, last out. It is the first in, last out, and in the queue, it is first in, first out. So just remember, you are standing in the queue, and as soon as more people will come, they are behind the first person, and we have to remove the person 1 from the queue. So now let's make the function queue. So this is my queue function. Initially, I will create a new variable data, which will have the empty array. Then I will create few function. Maybe first function will be insert equal to function. Another function will be remove. That will be another function. And third function will be size, which will tell me the size of this queue. And fourth function which I will create is peak, which will tell me which person is about to be now currently. So when we have this one, person 1 is next to go. So peak will tell me which person is about to go, and remove will remove this person 1, and the remaining queue will become without person 1. That is, person 1 is done with buying the ticket, or done with the purpose for which he was standing in the queue. So we have to build this function. The only function which take the parameter is the insert. The insert will take some value. So as soon as we put the value inside it, we will call this.data.unshift. That means we will use the unshift method of the array, and I will pass the value. So whenever I call the insert, I call the unshift, it will add in the beginning of the array. And if I want to remove, I will say return this.data.pop. So when I say pop, it will be removed this one. To get the size, I will say return this.data.length. So this will give me the size. So if I add only 1, the length of the array will be 1. So it will give me the 1 number here. And the peak will give me this one, this person who is about to get removed. So to get the peak, I will say return this.data. And here I have to give the number. Number should be this one, the last one. That is nothing but this.data.length minus 1. So if length is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if length is 5, the index of this will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have to pass 4 number. So to pass the 4 number, I'll say length, that is the 5 minus 1, that is the 4. So this.data of the 4. This.data of 4 is the person 1. I'm trying to show this one, the last value. Now let's build something here. Example, I will say constant q equal to new q. I create object from this q function. Then I can say q.insert person 1. I'll add 1 person, 2, 3, 4, 5. I added 5 person. So this one came first, so it will be at this level. And this came second, this came third, this came fourth, this came fifth. Then I can check the size. And then I can check the peak, that is who is about to get removed. And then I check the remove. So I remove it. After removing it, I'll check again. And then I'll check again. Then I'll check again. And I'll check again. So this is how we will build. Let's build it in the Chrome. Okay, so I build up queue function. Then I'll call the queue. I created the object of it, and then I'll call the insert of this one. Person 1, person 2, person 3, person 4, person 5. So if I check the queue, you will see we have the data of 5 and person 5 is at the end, 4, 3, 2, 1. So if I want to remove it, first I'll check the size. Size is 5 because we have 5 number. Then I'll check the peak, which is the person about to remove. So we know that this is a queue. Person 1 came first, so it is going first out. So I picked it. Now I'll remove it. So let's remove it. So person 1 got removed. Now if I check size, it is 4, and I remove 2. I check the size is 3. I'll pick it. So person 3 will go. Now let's remove it. Let's pick it now. Okay. So why I'm saying person 4? Because person 4 will go next. Remove it. Pick it. Remove it. Pick it. Since it's not there, so it's saying undefined. Nothing to go out. So this is how we build the queue function. Okay, let's we are done with the stack and the queue. We will see some more example on these two in the future classes. But the basic functionality of the stack and queue is done. So it is advisable you should remember this Q1 thoroughly, and you should be able to build this function without looking. So you should do it 10 times, 15 times, 20 times, queue and stack both. So that you should be able to write it without looking or without referring anything. Just you should do, because in interview they will ask you to write down in the whiteboard, and then you should be doing it without referring any book. You should do yourself. So that is what about the this one called a stack and queue. Let's do some of the object-oriented one. So we have seen last time how to create the object using the function. So we create the function, and to create the object, we have to use the new keyword. If I don't use new, then all whatever you have written this will become meaningless. It does not have any meaning. It is not the normal object. It is only the function. So if I remove new, this is the normal function, and it will not behave properly as object. And if we want to work in object, we have to use the new keyword. So this is what we did in the last class of object. So we will see now some more thing. Next thing which we will see is called the constructor property. So whenever you create object, okay, whenever the object is created, a property is assigned. You know what it happens? A property, and this property is called constructor property. A property is assigned to this object. So what happens whenever you create an object, any object using this method or any other method, constructor property is assigned to this object. And what is this? This constructor property contains a reference to the constructor function used to create this object. So what is this constructor property? It is a constructor function used to create this object. So when I create object, a function is used that is called the constructor function, and that is what used to create this object, and that this constructor property is assigned to this object. We'll see in detail in live example how it works, how it looks like. So let's build one object and then I'll show you. Let me build one object and then we'll see. So let's build one object called as function. I call it as A. It takes the parameter, for example, name. And once I create it, I say this.name equal to name. So whatever name I pass it here will be assigned to the property of this object A. And then I can say, then I can create a variable called as small a is equal to capital A, and I pass some name, for example, John. Okay, so this is my object. I just created one object. Let's see this one. So I created this function and I created this object from this function, and I pass John here. So when I say A, okay, since I did not put the new, so it didn't work properly. I had to use the new keyword. Let's add the new keyword. I told you we had to put the new keyword. Okay, let's do it again. var A equal to new A, and I pass some name. Okay, so I got the A name. So if I say a dot constructor, you will see it's a function, and function is, you see it is same function what I used to create this object. So this constructor is a function which you see here, this A, and this function is used to create this object. So we created this object. How we created this object? Using this function. So this function is nothing but the constructor function of this object. That this object is created using this function. Okay, so if I create another function and create an object, that object will have the constructor property, and that constructor is a function which we use to create that object. Okay, so this is one point which we see. We are going more detail into it right now. So this constructor property contains what? It contains a reference to a function. We saw that this is the function, and this constructor is referring to this function because this object was created using this function. Since this object was created using this function, so the constructor property has this function as its value. So, So what is the constructor? It is a reference to a function. We can also call this function to produce a new object. Either I can use this function to create the new object, or I can use the constructor function of this A object to create the new object. Okay. So if I create a new object B using the constructor function of A, I will say I don't care how A is created, but I can use the constructor function of the A to create another object, and it can be done like this. I will create another object, and I will use a new. Since I have to create the object, I will use the keyword new, and then I will say A. This is the A. I don't want to create with the function A because I already created this. I want to show you how to create in another way. We can do this way also, as we have done this one, but let's use the constructor function of A to build a new object. So I will say new, and I will say A. I'm referring to this A. Then I'm going to the constructor, and then I'm putting the new name. New name may be David. So B is created a new object using the constructor function of the A, and constructor function is nothing but this function. So here I can say var B equal to new A dot constructor, and then I can give the name. Okay, so now if I do B, and if I say B dot constructor, so it is also the same function with this one, because I created using the constructor of A, which is nothing but this one. So B was created a new object using the constructor of the A function, A object. Okay. So let's go further more on this one. So we have seen this is the constructor function, and I created object using the constructor function. So this constructor is nothing but a function, reference to the function from where this object is created. Since this object is created using this function, therefore the constructor function is nothing but this function. What is this? This is the constructor function. Why this is the constructor function? Because A is created using this function. So we should know how A is created. We know that A is created using this function. That is the reason it is called the constructor property of A, and it is nothing but the function used to create this object. Let's try to create a simple object using the literal notation. For example, var O equal to just the curly bracket. So if an object is created using the literal notation, its constructor is the built-in object. It's built-in object, because all objects are actually created with this object, built-in object of the JavaScript. So if I create just a little notation, then I check typeof o.constructor, it will be the function, and that function will be nothing but this object. So I create this O, and then I will do type of o.constructor. It is a function, and if I do o.constructor, it is nothing but the object, which is the built-in object of JavaScript. So basically JavaScript has the built-in object, and all objects are created from this built-in object. So if I use this function as the constructor, then constructor function will be nothing but this function. But if I use the literal notation, then the constructor function will be the built-in object, which is the default, the original function of all the objects. So once I do this o.constructor, it will show me the built-in object function like this. So this is all about the constructor function. We'll talk more about it in future classes, but for today, just go through these two examples to see what constructor is created when we create the object. So this is called the constructor property. So that's it for today.